When we got into it and we both decided, okay, we can make this like our full-time thing.
We travel so much, we came to the conclusion that you're not meant to eat at hotels as often as we do.
We didn't know how long it would take for the brand Sheneller to be like profitable and that make all the money we need. So the idea was, while we're doing that, let's build like a travel production team that focuses just on making stuff for hotels. When we were like dead broke, we were still saying no to like massive campaigns that
really
could have
tough.
like sorted us out for months.
It was so hard because we knew we wanted to create amazing travel content.
If we wanted to be like an Ask Daily, imagine how much money and how much time we're going to have to spend traveling all around the world making all this content.
Which came first, Instagram success or YouTube? Welcome back to I'm No Expert. You're here with me, Jason. I'm a filmmaker by profession, and I'm here speaking with a lot of people, South Asian voices that could represent themselves to the world. That was a terrible intro. Jesus Christ. Hi. I was like, bro, I was thinking South Asian voices. Try to put that in there, but it just didn't flow in. But it came out in some way.
Yeah.
Shehaan and Shenelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I didn't want to, I wanted to introduce you guys, but everybody knows you already as these popular influencers on social media. Shehaan, you with BTS and behind the scenes of like making this this product, and Shenelle, you also being behind the scenes, but also the face of it at the same time. So I don't want to toot your own horn for too long because you do have accreditation that's recognizable by everybody already. But yeah, thank you for being here. I just wanted to jump straight into our topics of discussion today, which is what are we talking about today?
Whatever you want.
Great. That's good. So, I mean, you guys have been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
Sri Lanka is obviously, the climate is different in Sri Lanka. Everybody thinks being an influencer is, like when you say the word influencer, we're thinking social media dominated by Western culture. And so we've seen the trends, we've seen how things grow there.
Yep.
But in Sri Lanka, it was way different. Let's go back to the get-go. Let's go back to when it all started for Sri Lanka itself and when you guys plugged in.
Yeah.
I would say that I first started noticing social media influencers probably around 2016.
Yeah.
There were like maybe one or two people who were legitimately doing this, and I think they were people who lived abroad and came here, so they already had a good idea of how social media influencing worked.
Right.
And so they were like the first few people, I think, that started to introduce the concept.
Do you have any names?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
who?
Yeah.
So, Christina.
Yeah, Christina
was one, definitely,
and Zainab Faisal. She used to go as Queen Bey back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Both of them were, I think they lived in the Middle East
Fantastic.
at some point.
Yeah.
And then they both came here.
Yeah.
So
To us, right? I mean, there would have been others, but those are the few that we
this
saw.
is
Right, that you remember. Yeah.
That we
Personally.
remember. And I think what we saw was, okay, this is something that's starting. I don't think even they had really figured out how to monetize it per se.
Yeah.
But I think when we got into it, which was like a bit later on, 2018.
Yeah.
And like most businesses, we sort of got into it like by chance, really, not really thinking, oh, we're going to sort of develop it like this.
Yeah.
But when we got into it and we both decided, okay, we can make this like our full-time thing, then we started looking at different ways of monetizing. And that's to what you said. It's not as straightforward or as easy as it was or is in the West.
Yeah.
Because here, no one was sort of, aware of what it was. No one was sort of understanding of the sort of impact.
Yeah.
No one was.
Or the value that an influence actually has. I think influencers themselves, I think now they're starting to get how valuable they are for marketing budgets and people. But back then they had no idea, and it was just wonderful to get a few free things.
And it was very much like, we'll give you a freebie and you do this.
Yeah.
And because the entire market was like everyone's doing it for free, it was really hard to sort of establish
and monetize.
This is the value.
And
that was really our challenge.
Yeah, and you have to add that like at that time it was like free games, so amazing for like all marketing like firms and like businesses, because they realized that young people aren't watching TV anymore, and all the eyeballs were on social media, and these opinion leaders on social media were actually really young and inexperienced and didn't know how much value they held to these brands that wanted to work with them.
Right.
So I think we started off early on with things like, not us, but just the industry in general. I think you had more people doing things for a free stay, for a free product.
Also, like, you're your own personal brand.
Right.
So there was also that element of, I got like a Unilever brand, or I got this brand. So this helps me elevate my personal brand. So people were playing that game also. To get exposure and show that they're working with these brands and stuff.
Right.
So
has anyone ever come up to you at that time and say, I can pay you with exposure?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, everyone.
And that's not just influencing, that's like in the modeling industry as well. So I was very accustomed to that.
Yeah.
And I had been trained by my modeling manager to see that as just an absolute no.
Okay.
Like even if I didn't have any name. I mean, maybe, depends if there is value in that.
Yes.
But you have to know at which point where the value from exposure stops for you as a creator that's starting out, because it stops at a certain point.
Right.
And if you don't place value on your work and start charging, your lifespan as a creator might be very short, because you're going to burn out, you're going to run out of funds. You can't expand creatively because you don't have the funds to reinvest.
And what we understood early on, and of course we were, I think, probably one of the first to really charge, because we had experience also working with people. Like I had experience working with you prior to this, right? So I knew what advertising actually cost.
Right.
I understood that, and I came from a background of marketing, so I knew this is usually the budget, and here's everyone now doing this for free, right? And I knew there's a huge someone's benefiting there. So as we started, we were like, I told Shenelle, and we weren't getting any work compared to everyone else who was getting free stays at this, free stays at that. I said, no, but if we don't value ourselves, how is anyone else going to value us later down the line?
Yeah.
And
I didn't understand it at all in the beginning. I was like, if I'm doing more stuff and posting more stuff, I'm working. I'm making this happen.
Right.
It took me a long time to figure out that that's not it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Working hard or hardly working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Or is it working hard or work smart?
Yeah.
It's one of the two. One of those sayings in there.
It's definitely like learning to work smart and to like, I think what we did was really important to harness yourself as a personal brand. What Shehaan told me in the very beginning was that we can't do everything and we shouldn't. And there might be things that you like. There were so many things that I would have loved to have done. Even today, things that I really like, enjoy, but I can't and won't do them simply because it's not a fit to the brand that we have built.
Absolutely.
We say no to like 99% of the work that comes out.
Nice. Yeah. But you're in a position now to say no.
We said no
because you waited. You didn't go for that instant gratification of like, I got the job or I got that brand.
But we always said no. Like that's part of the reason why it's getting better and better. But like even 3 years ago, when we were like dead broke, we were still saying no to like massive campaigns that really could have like sorted us out for months. But
and even I would say as recently as maybe last year, there was a campaign that we were approached for that was gonna pay, like, that we could have charged X amount for, and for us having that money at the time would have been really important for the things that we were doing. But there was something about the campaign that I didn't agree with. It was a very small thing, but I still felt like it's something that I need to pay attention to because I don't believe in it and I don't even want to be somewhat associated in it. So we said no, and like we were just like going back and forth thinking like, is this right, whatever, and then we just came to this conclusion where it feels good to say no to this because if I said yes, we'd have the money, but I would feel so bad inside knowing that I kind of what's the word? Not sacrifice.
Sold yourself.
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah, and like I had to
sold your values basically.
Yeah. Whereas I don't ever want to be caught doing something I don't agree with, and now we have the power to do that. But I think that it's really important to do that even in the beginning.
Absolutely.
Because it'll pay off later.
Because you've exercised it over time. You're exercising that muscle that not a lot of people don't think about it, but it is an actual muscle. And to have some sort of like confidence in, okay, that's not who I am. That brand is trying to push an agenda, which I don't agree with. I'm going to say no, which then opens up other platforms and areas in what you actually believe in.
And you'll be happier that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It also helps you make those decisions further down the line. So how I looked initially was very hard, right? And I think this is what because you don't get full-time influencers. Like now I think you do get a few, but everyone's got a side hustle and stuff. But when you are full-time, every check that comes your way, you're just like, how can you say no to that? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's easy money. It's just a post, right? But how I looked at it, and I think we sort of realized it was every time we said no to a project, that amount of money, I look at it as that's the investment we are making in our brand.
Nice.
Because at the end of the day, yes, we didn't get that to ourselves, but by us saying no to that, that's actually value in our brand now.
So good.
Was that saying that you said the things that you say no to define your brand more than the things that you say yes to, or something like that?
Yeah, something on those lines.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it the way it is. Yeah, it's good.
And so what has happened now is we've said no to like campaigns in the millions for like a day's work.
Right.
And as a result now, it's so easy to say no to like a campaign that's even lesser for something if it just doesn't stand by. Like we know, okay, we said no to that. Are we going to like go against all of that sacrifice we've made just now to sort of take on a smaller project?
And it becomes easier when you get a clearer idea of what your brand is. You have to have some kind of values that you stand by no matter what, some core beliefs and somewhat of a mission.
Yeah.
Just like a business, honestly.
Yeah.
And once you have that, you write that down, you stick it on your wall, and you work every day looking at that.
And with what we do, the audience also is very much part of your business, right? So like we've said no to so many things for so long.
Right.
It's not that we've done anything where they've told us, hey, why are you doing that? But I'm certain now, if we get behind a brand that is not on brand with us, people will be like, oh,
what are you doing? Yeah.
How odd is it that Shenelle and Shehaan took up
Sell
that?
out.
Sell out. I was thinking the same thing.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. Like people, when they do come on board with you on this journey for that long, there is a sense of trust.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that I think that's what separates you two from a majority of the others. And I'm not saying that the others are bad or anything in terms of influencing, but you're authentic. You've built an authentic following, and you've built an authentic image. And why break that now when you have all of these other opportunities?
Yeah.
They're literally knocking at your door, and you're saying, "No, I'm good. I think I'm going to go down this path instead." That's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
To add on to what you were saying in terms of like with the film industry as well. What we faced in here, again, we're talking specifically Sri Lanka, right? Because even in South Asia, even in India, it's a massive market for influencers. And then, so it can go left, right, up, down, wherever it wants to go. Sri Lanka was specific because even with the social media boom, filmmakers would undercut. Yeah. And so from, say, a 1 million rupee commercial to a 5 million rupee commercial would come down to 50,000 rupees. And people will come up and be like, oh, why do I need to pay you when I can have this guy with a camera to do it for you for 50,000? And we're like, okay.
Yeah.
That's where you want to go. You want to go.
Pay for.
Exactly.
You know, recently we were shooting a project for another client, and so we are doing like the influencer work.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they had, as a public listed company, they had to get quotations, and they said they went with the lowest sort of offer, and the entire project, like they spent on sending the team abroad, like massive campaign that they were shooting. Yeah. Entire project didn't go through because like the quality was crap. Wow. And I was like, they were like, but I told them, I said, don't you see that like maybe if you had spent and gone for the high guy, you'd be done in one shot.
Absolutely.
And you're paying that for value.
Yeah.
I think that.
Yeah, I really think it's also like a collaborative process, right? What clients think here in Sri Lanka, at least in Sri Lanka specifically, is, oh, okay, I'm going to get this person to do this video. Do the video. I trust you. I trust you're going to do this.
Not involved.
That's it. They're not involved. And so there's no collaborative process.
Yeah.
What we honestly believe is that you are an extension of their team, right? For that period that you're working with them.
Yeah.
When you're a team, you're all focusing on this one goal. You're all in sync before you even start shooting, before you even start the pre-production process. You're aligning the vision, and then you start. But I can see what you're saying. Like they go for the cheaper option, quick money, quick output, and then things are like, they look up in the air and be like, oh, what went wrong?
Yeah, and then they have to go again.
Absolutely.
And they end up spending more.
Yeah.
I think it's also because it's such a small market, right? So like everyone knows everyone knows like, oh, this is what it is. And
if you really think about it, Colombo is the only market. It's not even the whole island of Sri Lanka.
That's a good point.
All the decisions are made here. And so it's very easy for people to like, the bar is just there.
Yeah.
Right? And like, so you just know, okay, these are the levels, and then they just go for whichever.
Yeah.
Whereas in another market, any other bigger market, you'd see so many different sort of options available to you, and you see what that does. You also have a lot more research available to you as to how well each performs.
Right.
Here you don't really have that, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
In terms of your approach to your brand, you went you were very specific. From what I understand, you're very specific with, this is what we do and this is how we tell our stories.
Yeah.
There's a lot of influencing, even filmmakers, even photographers that have that brand that says, I do everything.
Yeah.
I do everything, and then it's not specific.
Yeah.
Where's the downfall in that?
Because then you're not polishing your skills on being good at, like, not good, exceptional at one thing. Because you can be good at a lot of things, but there's also other people who are good at like each of those things. But if you are known, sorry, I'm just holding this in the air. Like,
That's a great mug.
yeah. If you are known for a certain thing, like I'd come to Jason if I want a super creative, fun ad that like really delivers a message in a high quality way. I come to you. And that's what I know of your brand.
Right.
But if you were a brand that has done multiple different work,
Like you have budget, you have this, you have this,
you have
this.
hotel, you have travel, you have this and that. I'll just be like, oh, he seems like he can do anything, but I still need someone who's really good.
Yeah.
And that branding of doing everything won't be sufficient for me as someone who comes from a marketing background with no real like film knowledge.
Right.
So it's really the person in marketing that's making the decision.
Yeah.
And they need to, as someone who doesn't come from a film background, look at your brand and your work and be like, that's the one.
Yeah.
And
so,
I mean, that's how we look at it from a business point of view.
Yeah.
But our real reasoning was more of a lifestyle choice.
Okay.
So we quit like 9 to 5s and wanted to do something that we felt would like fulfill us.
Right.
it has evolved from our initial.
It's evolved a bit, but money wasn't ever part of the equation. It was, how can we live a life where we are always traveling, always doing what we enjoy doing. Location independent. And so every decision we make now, there's that also, is like, by doing this, like so many business opportunities, right? At this point now, so many business opportunities, we could do a merch brand, we could do this. I mean, we're testing out little bits and pieces, but some things would mean, hey, we're going to have to now hire a team to manage that. And then we think about it, we're like, the two of us can't just up and leave to Thailand for 3 months if we have a team.
Right.
The two of us can't decide to cycle around the country for like 40 days if we have a team that's dependent and like has to fulfill some other client's work.
Right.
Initially, as we started, we played around with it.
Yeah.
I used to like film events. I used to film restaurants and like just to like make some money so that we didn't have to compromise on what our brand stood for.
Nice.
I would separately do that.
Yeah.
And I very soon understood one thing I absolutely hate about it, which I don't know how you handle this, like working with clients and their expectations, right?
Finding your next nutrient-dense meal is really tough when you're on the road or you're working really long hours during filmmaking season or whatever it is that you're doing. Kion has been with me since day one with its essential amino acids or its whey protein. I'm feeling great 100% while I'm on the road. So if you want to check him out, hit him up on Kion.com. The link is in the description below. Or use the coupon code Jason plus Kion for your goodness on your next basket. Would it be a goodness basket? It's a goodness basket. Kion.com.
They're just like, oh, I love it. Can you change the track?
And that's basically asking someone to change the entire video, right?
Essentially, that's a really good point. I think if we're talking about that specifically, we try our best to make sure that people get it down on paper, like the clients get it down on paper before we start anything.
Yeah.
And so far that practice has, we've only been doing this in like Sri Lanka, where the on paper practice has been over the past 2 years. And they start to see the results of, because we wrote it down and we put it like we wrote to the T exactly what we're going to be doing. Yeah. They were able to be like, okay, so we're not going to change the music. And we show them the track, we show them all of this stuff, and it's worked out. But it is an educational process. So the business we're in, constantly we're asked to educate as we enter into an agreement. And we've never had, our returning clients, obviously, they know, they're like, oh, we know your work. We know what you want to do. We know how this works. They understand it. But the new ones that come on board, it always has been like, hey, this is our process. This is how it's going to work together. And we'd love to hold your hand and do it. And it has worked out so far.
That's
but
awesome.
but it is a lot of work.
It is, yeah. And so we looked at all of that, and like we could have also, because we could have focused on, like, the idea initially was we didn't know how long it would take for the brand Sheneller to be like profitable and that make all the money we need.
Right.
So the idea was, while we're doing that, let's build like a travel production team that focuses just on making stuff for hotels, because that was what we were always in and around.
Nice.
And even then I was like, oh crap, that would mean that like we'd have to go around the country with a team that's shooting this, whereas our whole thing is just the two of us. And that's what we enjoy. And so we are very much trying to optimize our entire business model to sort of work in that way, where it's the two of us majority of the time, and now having like separate arms to help us develop out certain things. So it's, I mean, partly by design that we decided to be very strategic in that approach, but also purely out of necessity.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I can see that in terms of you're scaling up with what works for you. You're not following some sort of like given template. You've noticed, you've seen the nuances, you know what there needs to be, have an extension of in parts of your business, and you're picking at that piece by piece, day by day. And that makes sense. Because you've been doing it for that long. So now, speaking of that long, you 203,000 subscribers on YouTube, 130,000. I have it written down in front of my computer. I was gonna try to impress you by like giving you all the numbers, like
close to 500,000 in total.
Close to 500,000 in total so far. And this has been how many years in the making?
It's from 2019.
5 to 6.
It's brilliant. Consistency,
and it's been very slow. Like I think for us to get monetized on YouTube itself, which is 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours within a year, 365 days, that was so hard for us.
It took us 2 years.
Yeah, it took us 2 years, and I mean, in that 2 years, we are just like I can imagine people can falter in that 2 years and just be like, this is not working, it's not feasible. And it really wasn't, but we had to make it feasible by coming up with like other ways to make money, whether it's like a product, like a produced video for like a hotel sort of, or whatever skills we could put together, influencing, outfit, like whatever we could charge for and do to justify doing this.
We even shot a baby shower. No, what? A
baby gender reveal.
Gender reveal video.
Shehaan did that.
I love that.
So there was a lot of stuff happening like behind the scenes that we didn't really like showcase because we needed to make it work and feasible, and money is important for that. So it was all about that. And I think the happiest, like one of the happiest days of my life was when we got monetized and it showed up, because it was such a huge mental barrier for me, because I wanted to get monetized, because I knew once we are monetized, then we can pull all our resources and put it into making videos, because now you can at least get paid $1. Even if it's just $1, you have a pathway to being paid online. And it was just simply about figuring out what was the best way to do that for us, and and analyzing the audience and all of that. But to do all of that, we needed to get through this barrier, and it was so hard because we knew we wanted to create amazing travel content. But
there's no funds.
Not even the funds. It's like nobody's watching you when you have like a page that has like a subscriber with like 200 subscribers or 300 subscribers, and you upload videos like once a week,
and the quality,
and you're
like in Sri Lanka,
and your quality is also not so great back then. There's like, it's really hard to get those views initially. It's not as easy, and it's about really analyzing, finding out who you are as a person, trying to see what value you like, really being strategic with it. Shehaan's work is what helped us to get through that barrier, because I think that was really one of the toughest things for us.
That question, so my question to you is, that's resiliency, that's like you're patient, you've built, like I said before, you built this muscle. We
were just like, we're doing this, and there's like, because we just did not want to like go back to our old lives.
Fair enough.
And we were just like, we have to burn these bridges so that we have no option,
Yeah.
but to go forward. And like, because it was really like, because it's the two of us, and we have strengths that complement each other. It's one of the reasons I think why we succeeded in doing what we did as well, especially being a couple as well. But I think having a hand to hold was so important. Because it gets dark and lonely and all of that.
I can understand. In terms of which came first, Instagram success or YouTube?
Instagram. It was entirely Instagram, right?
No, I was on Instagram because of the modeling work and all of that. And I did the Vogue India cover in 2019. Was that? No, 2016.
Okay.
And that had like bought me like my first big spike on Instagram. But it wasn't a lot. Like I went from like 1,000 to like 4,000 subscribers. And then it just stayed around that mark and slowly grew to about 10K, which was a big goal for me. And I think around 20K is when we got monetized on YouTube. So I guess you could say Instagram was popping earlier.
Yeah, Instagram was where we first, like our first paid projects were for influencer work we did on Instagram.
But I still think YouTube took off first. Like YouTube
depends on how you sort of like define success. Because for us, success would obviously be to be independent financially to continue production.
Right.
That came through YouTube. So that came much later. But Instagram was where
you build
like
a reputation,
the light bulb,
no?
and the light bulb sort of clicked saying, hey, we can do this. But it's, I think the important thing to realize, which a lot of people aren't doing here, which we did, was we didn't just stick to what was working. At that time, Instagram was working. We could have doubled down on that, but we very well knew that we had to build on YouTube.
Absolutely.
That's where freedom was, because otherwise you're constantly just having to promote whatever a client wants to push down the way. So by working on that both, actually now we don't do any paid ads on Instagram. Everything's like, Instagram is just a way of sort of showing what Shenelle really, like what she really believes in. It's just a peek into her life. Plus promoting our YouTube work. So it's like a full campaign. And
that was also a strategic move. I think Instagram was the first platform that I got to know while uploading on, and I was really hell-bent on growing because I thought a big number meant people would take me seriously and we could charge more for work. And then I realized, it's really hard to grow if you don't look a certain way and post a certain type of content. And then
define that content. No, I'm kidding.
and then I realized even though you have lots of subscribers and lots of engagement and comments, the quality of it wasn't very good. It wasn't going to convert to anyone. It wasn't the kind of people who were going to convert and buy a product I was trying to sell.
Right.
So that anyway wasn't an option. And between these two, I was really stuck. I was very into taking photographs. I loved it, and we spent a lot of time fighting about why the picture is not straight, and all these editing and all of this stuff, and beautiful imagery and posting it, and it just wasn't growing the way that I saw other people growing. Now that can be something that can demotivate someone, and I did feel a bit upset about it, why am I the only one that's not growing? But then at the same time, Shehaan was like, look, this is fine. Instagram is Instagram. We need to focus on YouTube. I think YouTube is where it's at. I had already started a YouTube channel in 2018, but I hadn't put a lot of effort into it because I thought this is it, and then I'll build this, and then I'll tell them to watch my YouTube videos, and then my YouTube will grow. That's not happening. To date, I don't see a huge conversion from people leaving Instagram to go and watch my video when I post a link. There is, but I believe when I talk to them, when I talk to people, they say when I'm on Instagram, I don't leave Instagram to go watch your videos. But when I'm on YouTube and I see your videos, then I watch it. Then I'm subscribed. So what I think you were right in that projection or that forecast, that building on YouTube, investing time into YouTube helped us grow a whole new audience.
Right.
Different age groups, and just kind of people that were into long-term content. Who still liked watching a 15-20 minute video, who enjoyed the value that you were providing. We built that. And then a little much later on, the Instagram audience would realize, Shenelle's making nice videos on YouTube. When I'm there next time, I should check it out. So that was really the important realization, was that you can't depend on this one audience.
Yep.
We built another one here, and now we've built another one on Facebook, and together
It's massive.
it's massive.
It works so well now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having multi-platform.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's anyone
Yeah.
else who's really sort of doing the approach we're taking,
Mhm.
but having a multi-platform approach for distribution
Yeah.
is phenomenal.
So do you shoot your content with the multiple platforms in mind, or do you
YouTube is
shoot it for
primary.
YouTube predominantly and then like
YouTube-
edit it down?
I mean, it depends on what the client sort of comes on board for.
Sure.
The basic thing would be YouTube first, and then we repurpose everything
Yeah.
we shot on YouTube for the short form.
Yeah.
But while shooting that, like, there are sometimes we're just like, oh, this place is like an Instagram spot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, let's just
Do
shoot
a
it vertical,
few- yeah.
think about vertical.
But that
and-
rarely happens, no?
Yeah.
That rarely
But
happens.
the beauty is that a lot of it comes down to editing.
Yeah.
And there, again, I think is an advantage we have is that we also edit everything.
Yeah.
So
Do you guys edit together?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he does. He'll do one project by himself. I'll do another, and then
We've
we'll
tried different ways of
Yeah.
like going about
we'll
it.
give each other unnecessary
It's like
comments
tag
and
team.
tips. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all fun.
Yeah.
But I do think it's important to consider the fact that if one platform is not working for
Yeah.
you, and the kind of person you are and the kind of content that you create, do try another one.
Mhm.
Because even though you think it's everyone's using all platforms, there's just different groups that spend
Yeah.
more time on each. And you could, like, for example, I think what happened to me is that I wanted to be an Instagram creator,
Yeah.
but my skills and my whatever was more suited for YouTube.
Mhm.
and
Yeah, I was
Facebook.
able to be more, I guess, relatable by speaking more, which people on Instagram don't really want to listen to you speak for more than
Yeah. And like
15
LinkedIn
seconds.
now.
Yeah.
So we've also started repurposing and putting it up on LinkedIn. It's like opened the craziest doors for us.
Right.
Like beyond, like it's unfathomable. Like it's small reach,
Yeah.
but it just works so well because
Yeah.
everyone on LinkedIn has heard about you.
Yeah.
And now they see, oh, you're like this, you're on this professional platform, and they sort of understanding the reasoning behind your campaigns.
Yeah.
great for corporate work.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The
Yeah.
kind of people that have reached out to us for work now
Yeah.
through there, like
Yeah.
the ROI is like tremendous on LinkedIn, you know? So multi-platform is definitely the way to go for reach. And
Yeah.
it also sort of takes away that burden in terms of having to deliver. Because when a client pays you, they are looking for reach.
Mm.
And sometimes, like with social media, you can never be certain.
Right.
You can never say, hey, I'm going to give you 100,000 views.
Right.
I mean, maybe you could if you go for like 10% of what you're really expecting, and you can say, okay, hey, I'll give you 10,000 views.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that always. But now we never stress because we know somewhere something is going to go off.
Right.
And the way we do it is that it just goes up everywhere.
And
Nice.
it's interesting because you get to see there's some content that performs well on, let's say, a reel,
Mhm.
will perform well on Instagram
Yeah.
and TikTok, but not
YouTube
on
Shorts.
Shorts. Yeah,
Right.
but not on Shorts.
Yeah.
Then there's like this one that will perform across the board. And then you're just sitting there trying to figure out what is it. And there's a lot of
works.
information that you get from being multi-platform. And if you can absorb it,
Yeah.
that can
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
you like kind of fine tune the kind of content you create, or like, hey, these are the elements in a viral piece of content. Now take that and use it to create something of value, but also viral.
Yeah.
So there's a lot you can do once you start getting data, and data is Shehaan Payer's end of
Your
the
forte.
Yeah.
data, strategy, logical, admin. I'm just there to be in front. Just kidding.
No, you guys are great. You guys are a fantastic team, and it really translates with the way you guys speak and how you come across.
Thank you.
You've had a really good spike with your series for This is Sri Lanka.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. And I mean, this surpassed, in terms of numbers, it surpassed a couple of big names in the social media industry.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. What was your approach with This is Sri Lanka?
Yeah.
Why was it important, and how did that change your view in terms of content?
Yeah. So, should I take that?
Mhm.
Yeah. So this is Sri Lanka actually started, I think, 2019-ish, but like very small. We still, at that time, we thought, okay, we're going to be travel content creators internationally. But we always knew that there was such a lack of like proper storytelling out of Sri Lanka.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't see how that could be monetized, but we started the the campaign This is Sri Lanka for the first video, because the idea was we wanted to show what Sri Lanka was as locals, sort of bring in that local sort of
and bring in a
perspective.
bit more depth from the knowledge and the stories that we have. When you speak Sinhala or Tamil, you can communicate with more people and get more stories.
Absolutely.
And there's this whole layer that you miss out when you're just traveling in Sri Lanka for 7 days and you make a video on that 7-day tour.
Yeah.
It's just, it's great. It's great publicity, but there's a lot of misinformation and things that happen. And we just thought, hey, you know what? Like, we speak English. We can make a video. Like, instead of criticizing people who are already doing what they are doing, maybe we can, put our money where our mouth is. Like, if you feel like they're not doing a good enough job representing your country, you get up and start doing it. And that's my approach to everyone who has something negative to say about Sri Lanka. Because nowhere is perfect. No country is perfect. But if you're gonna say something bad about the current state of the country, you should also be ready to get up and do something. Now, maybe not about that because you don't have the expertise in there, but in some end. And that's the approach that we like to.
But the reason for the success behind This is Sri Lanka is the fact that we also didn't realize it at the time, but consistency. We've been creating on Sri Lanka for the last 5 years. You talk to anyone living abroad, any Sri Lankan, and ask them, hey, I'm planning on going to Sri Lanka. What should I do? Most likely they will say, go watch Sheneller.
Is like, you're just...
No, I feel it's pretty...
I like it. If you get up here and you're brave enough to speak it,
well,
of
that's
course
where we want to get to. Well, that was essentially the plan. Was what I said was, look, if we wanted to be like an Ask Daily, imagine how much money and how much time we're going to have to spend traveling all around the world making all this content. And for us being Sri Lankans with our passport, it's not as it's a limitation. You can't jump around countries like these guys do. Like you'd have to come back to Sri Lanka, get a new visa, go back. We did it for a while and we're like, this is way too costly. It's not practical. Like, we're spending so much more money. So then I was like, let's put all our attention and build an entire portfolio around Sri Lanka, which is something no one else could really do. Because like even the biggest travel bloggers who come to Sri Lanka will only have a month here at most. It doesn't make sense for them to spend 5 years creating content out of here, right? So even when they come and spend a month here,
still not enough.
And they create their piece of content. Now what's happened is because we have such a huge portfolio of content on Sri Lanka, even their content directs to us. Right?
Or we can see influences in like thumbnails and like storylines. And that's really important because now we can influence what they create as well.
And so the whole premise of why the campaign is working is we're not just tapping into people now on travel, we're also doing like industries of Sri Lanka, we're doing communities, we're doing all these different things, all with the focus of like capitalizing on the search term Sri Lanka. And that's why This is Sri Lanka. So the idea being, you search anything Sri Lanka on YouTube, you will see us in that suggested.
And that comes back to like being known for something. That's the value of it in today's day and age. I mean, if you're creating on YouTube, say you're, forget travel, you're into Photoshop. You want to teach people how to use all those apps. If you focus solely on like Adobe, like creative apps, and you build a name for yourself. I can think of a few people I right now at the top of my head who I like consistently follow to learn everything that I know today. And they're really successful. And just one guy, he does Photoshop and all of this stuff. He's Indian, but his audience is worldwide. And that shows that there aren't limitations because Photoshop is something that is universal for everyone.
Absolutely.
So if you pick something, specializing in it is quite beneficial.
It's only 5 years. The way we are projecting and the way we're building is forever. It's like, how can we create and what can we do consistently? And that's kind of how we've evolved it. So this is just 5 years of work currently online. Imagine when it's at 10. Imagine when it's at 15. The sort of depth and knowledge we are able to share on Sri Lanka. And then at that point, every time we do a video, the kind of audience we speak to with the credibility that hopefully we'll be able to bring through is going to be even bigger. So like, it's all about like, it's not even for today. It's like 10 years down the line. How does this all fit into like building this massive brand and like being sort of, I jokingly say this, but the face of Sri Lanka is what I say Shenelle could be.
I see it like a directory
Absolutely.
on Sri Lanka. For me personally, it's about, documenting stories like how we were speaking about earlier, Gune, the Vedas in Galoya, right? Their story and kind of capturing the fact that they are kind of diminishing and that there is no one to pass on to the next generation. What can we do about it? Because nobody wants that, but nobody knows that either. We have the ability to make that story and put it up there.
Absolutely.
And whatever else, like, that you can and want to know about Sri Lanka, or you didn't know that you could know about, whether it's cinnamon, whether it's sapphires, whether it's stories of kings, you should be able to. I would hope in 15 years that you want to know anything about Sri Lanka, you can just hop on the YouTube channel and there'll be something like educational regarding industries, regarding history, regarding current issues, sustainability. Like, there'll be something, I hope, that and especially things that kind of tend to go under the radar and not be heard about can be documented and put up, and just find a resting space there on the internet for whoever is curious about it in the future,
Absolutely. And I really love the idea that it's also a Sri Lankan face, a Sri Lankan brand telling that story. One thing that, there was a campaign, well, it wasn't really a campaign, it was a video about cinnamon that Dior did a beautiful video on, and I loved it. But the one thing that really bothered me was like,
why aren't we telling?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who introduced the cinnamon to the world? Cinnamon's been there for a long time, but like in that digital sphere was Dior, and I was like, okay, there has to be a difference. So even our approach with like our films, with our clients, whether the resort or whatever, we're saying, why don't you claim that digital space on that particular topic about your resort? And that way it's you introducing that key component, as opposed to, like you said, an international influencer coming down, which is great, which is good stuff.
You need both. Yeah.
But you are the first to say it, and you're the first to claim it, and it's Sri Lankan, Sri Lanka that's putting it out there, Sri Lankan brand. And it's a win for us as a country.
I think it is time that we reclaim our narrative, because we came out of colonization and into independence only 75 years ago. Because I say only because compared to 400 years of colonization, 75 is like, we're still baby steps. We have a long way to go before we recover from that.
Absolutely.
And we're so used to having our narrative and our stories be told by the West or by Western countries.
And we praise them when they do it.
We praise them. And we don't realize that like that we are being, I don't know how to say it in a nice way. We don't realize that it's a loss to us.
Yeah.
That like, yes, it's lovely that someone is speaking about our country in such a wonderful way. It really is. And like, it's not that I don't like that, I do. But I think that we should be telling the first-hand story.
Absolutely.
And we should be supporting and exclaiming and admiring and encouraging the locals and the youngsters of our country to take charge of the storytelling.
Absolutely.
That's how they develop an interest and a love for their country as well.
Even from a financial point of view, it's massive, right? Like, think about it. Like, here's just us. We're just one. Imagine you have 10 operations like ours. That sort of reach, that sort of capability to share Sri Lanka stories, and at what cost in comparison to getting someone to come from abroad and do it. What depth. We can't do that. Like, if we wanted to run right now a proper massive campaign to promote Sri Lanka tourism, we are reliant on foreigners. Like, there's you, right? But like, even for you, there's only, like we were discussing this earlier, like there's only so much of production you can do, because we don't have enough of that talent.
Absolutely.
We don't have an ecosystem to support that talent, right?
Yeah.
And this is what we are fighting for, is partly responsibility of the private sector to understand that it is not just about your immediate benefit that you're getting out of creating this thing, but it's also about developing these people that will add into your business further down the line.
Yes.
So like, you guys went to Galloy, right?
Yep. Thanks to you guys.
Yeah.
You hooked us up with just for the audience listening. I saw the video on the Vadas in Galoya, the indigenous peoples, and then I saw that and I was like, oh, that's a good piece we need to add that into this documentary we're doing. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm glad their
Pleasure.
stories are being told by
Absolutely.
you guys.
So,
Thank you.
Our pleasure. So in that instance, right, those guys supported us at the start and they saw what we were doing and they were willing to even pay us at a time when no one else was paying us. But they paid us, which gave us the ability to buy more equipment, which gave us the ability to sort of go out and shoot other projects, right? If people like that didn't do that at that point, we wouldn't be able to develop, right? And the issue is that right now everyone's like, hey, that guy's doing it for cheaper and I'm not willing to spend anything more. And they're not, and the thing is like Galway, now we just recommended them to you. You're going to give them more value to what they're doing, right? So by them investing in us 5 years ago, look at like our continuous, they're continuously returning on their investment through us.
It's really well put.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is what's needed here, is that the industry has to take an approach of, hey,
Supporting,
it's not just about today,
Yeah.
it's about developing these people so that they will bring us far more value. A hotel here could never afford to bring down one of these big influencers.
Yeah.
Right. But we have now shown that we can bring that reach as well. Okay, we took a year to get it, right? But
steady growth. Yeah.
Steady growth. But the point being, we can do it here. And that's only because we figured out a way to do it. But imagine if there were 10 of us. That's bigger than all these guys can do it.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's what we need to sort of develop, is this sort of approach of we're also developing.
Yeah.
It should be a part of like their CSR. Be like, hey, we're also developing storytellers of Sri Lanka, because that is so important going into this world.
Absolutely.
We're all going to be digital.
Yeah. Narrative is important.
Our narrative is going to be controlled by what? Like CNET and CNN and like all the BBCs.
Yeah. Actually, it was during that time I realized how important it is to have voices here that can speak online and be heard.
Yeah.
Because I could see discrepancies between what very like credible news places were posting online versus living here and actually knowing what happened. Like, and I realized, my goodness, how can I believe anything else that these people are posting about other war-torn countries or whatever it is?
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, I don't have a lot of, at that time there wasn't like a massive following. We had a decent following, and I just felt like, I don't know how far my voice is going to reach.
Yeah.
But it was so important for me and Shehaan to go and document and show the Aragale, for example, for what it is. People's anguish, people's frustration. But hey, look at what we were able to do.
Look at the unity.
An exemplary performance of like people coming together to unite, to educate, to inspire. Like, it was
Very
exemplary to
little
the world. Very little violence. Like, we should be studied on this, right? Compared to Western world and their like protests and things like that.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was amazing, and I was so happy that we had a platform where we could put that up, and people who felt the same way could share that.
Absolutely, because like you rightfully said, everything that you see headline news, it's a very binary kind of like approach, right? It's like it's like one or two. It's like good, bad. Like that's what it is, and that's honestly what people will take. Because not many people want to take the time to read, or not many people want to, because they're busy. They've got other things to do. Time is money. I got to do my thing.
Thumbnail and title.
Thumbnail and title. It's like, so did you hear about that? Like, and so there's no depth to it. And rightfully said, you bought that. You're using your platform responsibly. You're showcasing the other side, the in depth, so that people can have a more informed view on certain subjects. Not just with tourism and brands, right? And that's fantastic. So we're almost out of time. Are we out of time? Are we good? Are we still going? We're out of time? We're not. But no, I have to ask you this question. You guys are travel influencers, but you're traveling all the time. How often are you out of the office or out of your house?
So
say 1 month traveling, 1 month off. Editing. 1 month editing, like that, and maybe sometimes 2 weeks traveling, 2 weeks at home. We try to give ourselves little breaks because traveling does take a toll. But right now, what's working is that last month in Feb, we traveled 2,500 kilometers.
Dang.
Just back-to-back travel up country, East Coast, South Coast. And then we've been at home since. So we do that. We just travel till we get like very tired. And then we just stay at home for post-production till we get bored of that. And then we're like, God, we need to get back on the road now. it's much better that way, I think.
What's the one home reset that makes you feel like, okay, I'm glad to be home? Is it the food? Is it the cooking?
Food,
Cooking at home?
definitely. Yeah, you know, just feels better to cook your own food and eat it. And now, because we travel so much, we've realized why we just put on weight suddenly somewhere around 2020. And we're like, what's happening? And then we came to the conclusion that you're not meant to eat at hotels as often as we do, I think. You know, the food's very rich.
Very rich, tasty.
Very tasty and just like big portions.
Meant to be like 3 to 4 days, right? You go to a hotel for 3 to 4 days.
Yeah.
We are in hotels for like 2 to 3 weeks sometimes. And so it's really hard when you get like a 3-course menu for every meal.
And the chef and everyone is looking so hopeful for you to eat it all.
And they also like go overboard in everything they do. So like, oh, I made this for you. Oh, I made this for you.
You know, if you send it back, they come back out and they're like, is everything okay? I'm like, no, it's really great. Like, I just can't eat
portion control today. Yeah.
No, but definitely, we've been at home now for about 2 months. Home in the sense in Colombo. Yeah. And I've been cooking a lot more, and we just drop a couple of kgs when we do that. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, plus I mean I've seen you guys pretty much carrying your equipment, filming, you're going hiking, you're carrying all that gear, going up certain like mountains and rocks, and so it really it inspires me to see people that are also taking fitness very importantly to and does it help you in your task that you're really conscious on?
Whenever we're unfit, Shehaan really feels it the most.
And also like, it's like a sport, honestly.
Yes.
Because like you need to perform so fast. And like the way we shoot is like run and gun. There is no second. We don't script ahead. We don't like plan saying, oh, this is how we're going to do it. So when it's happening, we need to shoot. And what I realized is the times that we are fit, it's so easy. Like you can just go. Whereas when you're not fit, you're sweating, you're panting. When it's time to get a second shot, or when you need to run out to the other side to get a different angle, you're just more frustrated.
You compromise more.
You compromise more. And so that
fitness is important.
Fitness is so important.
Very
and
important.
Sadly, we're not like
but it's one of our priorities.
It's our priorities.
It's a build up. It's you're building up towards it, and that's fantastic. The intention behind it is great.
We want to be able to hike really like difficult mountains and like not be dying, or even just Pidurangala. We should be able to do it with like just one sweat, not too many.
I've persuaded our the second Sri Lankan to summit Everest. I persuaded him to start vlogging. He's doing the 7 summits.
Is this Johan?
Yeah, Johan. Yeah. So Johan was I think he's on his 7th. I think he's on his 7th one, and he has to do that before June. And like persuaded him like document it because this is important. Sri Lanka needs to be like needs to show that reference point for somebody watching that clip. Being a Sri Lankan, like a Sri Lankan made it to Everest like
and
that.
A young kid, like the impact that's gonna have on
huge,
them.
Right? Yeah. I also like. I think that's one thing we didn't. If you have some time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one thing we didn't tap onto. The importance of seeing a Sri Lankan do it also.
Do anything.
Right? So like what we are doing. Yeah. When we were trying to do it, it seemed impossible because we never saw anyone else do what we're doing. Like you wouldn't think it's possible to like go to another country.
What's
and
that called? It's a ceiling, right? It's like that.
Like breaking the glass ceiling.
Yeah, when like a athlete.
When
pushes the boundary.
There's this famous stat, like there was a time when no one had done 100 under a certain amount of time. Yeah. But the second one guy did it, the next 5 years, like another 20 people did it. And that is so important because once you see people do this, once you see, hey, they figured it out, they were able to do it, then I can do it too. That's so important.
I really think it's important for the vast majority, even though I've noticed in Sri Lanka, even if somebody does succeed on a global platform, there's always some sort of like comment of like, oh well, they did it this way, so I guess it doesn't count. And I'm like,
there's always that guy.
But the interesting thing is you see that, but sometimes you may not really see the kind of people
who are inspired
by it and who continue to do. Like recently we've been realizing, one issue we see is that there aren't enough of creators out of Sri Lanka doing it in English. And we've been advocating for it for a long time, saying, look, it doesn't make sense initially because you can get far more reach and viewership in Sinhalese, but do it in English and you have a much bigger audience, much more sustainable business. And we are now seeing more and more guys like reach out, say, hey, I'm trying this, but it's failing. And like, it's tough, but it's encouraging to at least see that there are more people doing it.
One more mile every single day.
Yeah, Definitely.
I love that. I love that. Guys, thank you for being on the show.
Thank
This
you
has
for
been
having
awesome.
so
I mean,
Too
we,
short. We need more. One more round.
yeah,
to
we
talk.
need one more round because you guys have some exciting news coming up, and we'll obviously talk about that soon.
Definitely.
When that manifests.
Sort of to address a lot of the issues that we actually spoke about
Yes.
today.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I'm very excited. I can't wait to hear more of it. But for since we have Shenelle and Shehaan on the show, I'm just gonna do it one more time, guys. Hi, guys. Welcome to my show. Is that the
Welcome
line?
back to my channel.
Welcome back to my channel. Yes. All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it, and then we'll catch up soon again when you guys are
Definitely.
back.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, everybody. Do make sure that you listen to us on Spotify and support us on YouTube.